Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jeff Valk, co-founder and CEO of Admetsys, where we've developed the first automated glycemic control solution for hospital. In hospital care, 40% of all patients have glucose dysregulation, and whether they are diabetic or not, that number actually doubles in critical care. It's 80%. This is your body's primary fuel. A high blood glucose will kill you slowly, and a low blood glucose will kill you quickly. That metabolic roller coaster effect is incredibly hard on a patient trying to recover as well. In studies where glucoses have been well controlled, we've seen a 34% decrease in critical care mortality. Think about that. That's saving one life out of every 3 who presently don't make it out of critical care. Commensurate reductions across a host of comorbidities and reductions in length of stay in the most acute areas of care of 1.8 days with associated cost savings of $10,000 per patient. So how does the system do this today? Unfortunately, it's the same way that it was 30 years ago. It's a laborious, tedious, error-prone series of tasks done by a nurse. This fundamentally does not scale. And the cracks in the system are beginning to show. In a 2009 Journal of Hospital Medicine article, there was 12 million blood glucose measurements over 126 hospitals. We see that 46% of the time blood glucoses are harmfully high, and fully 10% of the time they're dangerously low. It means that good glucose control is actually the exception and not the norm. And that's what's motivated the design of the system that we're bringing to market. We like to think of it as a metabolic autopilot. It connects to a patient's IV line and uses an electrochemical biosensor to measure glucose among other analytes, which I'll come back to in a moment, in real time, building an adaptive computational model of each patient's metabolism that evolves as that patient's condition does. And then from this, directly treating the patient, infusing insulin to lower blood glucose levels, but also dextrose to raise and support a low one. We've done 3 clinical trials, all designed in concert with and approved by FDA in the United States. The 97% control across the entire cohort, and that last number is the most important by far. Complete prevention of dangerously low glucose levels. Come back to the chart that I showed you a moment ago. You can see what critical care glucose levels look like today. Highs, lows, exceedingly high variability. If your data set, regardless of what your background is, looks like this, what do you think your outcomes would look like? Not good. By contrast, this is what we're able to show. See here at the onset of treatment, not only elevated glucoses, but wide dispersion, normalized into the target zone by about hour 3, and progressively diminished variability thereafter. And it's that predictability, that repeatability of care that allows us to align our go-to-market model with the financial realities of hospital care. Not selling expensive capital goods, but rather offering a dependable per-patient day cost. Because in hospital, if the finances don't work, nothing does. We'll look at the most acute areas of care first in delivering this. We see those as cardiothoracic surgery, neuro, trauma, but the market here is tremendous. We see that initial slice to be about 200,000 devices in the United States and Europe, with an annual turnover from recurring revenue sources of about $13 billion per year. So what's the market look like today? Well, there are pieces, and this is part of the problem. You've got individual glucose sensing technologies. You've got dosage calculation that eliminates the burden of arithmetic, which is a great step. And of course, you've got the general purpose infusion pump market, but you see very little crossover. I mean, aside from us, there's one name up there, right? That leaves us alone in addressing the clinical workflow issue, the economic issue, head on as a solution, not a bunch of components. Got incredibly strong partnerships in delivering this, some long-standing ones you see there on the left, and an exciting conversation ongoing with Philips today. Submitting for CE the end of 2018, with an anticipated launch in the Nordic region, the rest of Europe to follow in 2019. Final data in front of FDA in that time frame, and then a launch later on in the United States. And as we're a startup, things change. We have to stay agile. I'm happy to stand before you today and announce that just 2 hours ago, we signed an MOU with the Dubai Health Authority. It's our first rollout there that will put the device in every hospital in Dubai. I promised I'd come back to the biosensor, which we really like to think of as an intravenous laboratory. These are the analytes that we're able to do today. Glucose, obviously, but lactate to give an indication of infection. Hematocrit to tell if a patient's bleeding in, blood temperature for peripheral perfusion. This is the next generation, already under engineering. It'll be rolled out within the next 10 months, so electrolytes and pH as well. There's a number of other analytes that we can do too, right? So imagining what we can do when we start taking all of these analytes continuously in real time on the most critical patients in the hospital system. And that's what the conversation looks like with our friends here at Philips, right? So imagining the future together. You've heard it over and over, and I'm going to tell you one more time. So what would it look like if we really had a patient's metabolism as a model in real time for that patient's outcome? And then what would it mean if we were able to take all of that data set across the entire cohort, across the entire population? What could we do with that? What could we do if we took telemetry, remote monitoring, and now made it actionable so that from a distance, the best clinical expertise in the world could act on patient health, regardless of where they are in the world? I'll leave you with that and welcome any questions that you have. Thank you very much.